Hello and welcome to A Cat in the Garden. I am officially home from my trip to Pennsylvania, but I did go plant shopping while I was there. I didn't get to film an intro or an outro while I was there, but I did get to go plant shopping a couple of times. And the one time I did film a full-length video, I went to Ashcombe in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania. It is one of my favorite places to go just because of the way it's set up. It just looks super curated and it's a lot of fun to go. We went with the whole family and just had a great little afternoon outing. So I'll just take you along for that little trip and I'll see you after. So when you first walk into the greenhouse at Ashcombe, the houseplants are front and center, which is awesome. I'm also going to give a little bit of a disclaimer right away. This is a faster video, so if you like slower plant shopping videos, I'm very sorry. I was with my entire family on this plant shopping trip, and they would not be down for a 30+ minute video of me just picking up every single plant. So I do apologize if you like it slower. This one is going to be a bit faster. These are Philodendron gloriosum for only $14.99. A lot of them had multiple growth points, which was really neat to see. And my family were such troopers for coming along. They know I like to film these videos. I just try to be courteous of their time as well when I'm out shopping with them. And there were a lot of us here, so that's why it's a bit shorter. And I do skip over some of the plants. I thought these shrimp plants were cool for $6.99, but I think I captured the best ones. I tried to highlight the plants that were the coolest to me anyway. Plants that are a little bit more on the rare side, things like that. And there was just so much variety here. I feel like it'd be impossible to go through every single little plant. And the greenhouse was fully stocked. It usually is. The greenhouses in Pennsylvania are very lush, very green, full of plants all the time. It's much different than shopping usually in Texas, but I do love it. There were a bunch of clearance plants, and I'm not in the phase of my life where I'm trying to rehab plants all the time. But if I was, there was a good selection there. And then this entire back wall was a bunch of different herbs. Every single herb that you could imagine, different varieties of each herb, variegated versions of each herb. It was so cool to see. I will go back and forth through that, but I don't want to miss any of the houseplants. And then this actually, it was in the houseplant section, but it's a bunch of basil. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I loved these tiny leafed basils here. I thought they were so cute. It was called bonsai basil. If I had room in my car, I definitely would have taken them home. And then there were a bunch of these little Rex begonias. I think they were all $10. That one just I thought was the most striking in terms of its color. And moving past the ferns, my husband found a cat and he was very, very happy. He said, I absolutely had to see this cat. It was just loving life. Clearly, cats in greenhouses live very tough lives. As you can see, he did not want my husband to stop petting it. Every time my husband tried to pull his arm away, he was like, no. And he wasn't clawing or anything. He was just grabbing my husband's hand so nicely, like, please don't stop petting me. It was very cute to see. He was super fluffy. I don't know how that cat wasn't overheating because greenhouses are very hot, and that was a very fluffy kitty. But he seemed super happy, and my husband was happy to oblige because he's not always the biggest fan of plant shopping. So he spent a lot of the time hanging out with that kitty. But back to the herbs, like I said, huge wall of herbs, every single kind imaginable. I think there were 10 different types of sage. And then there were some bigger calatheas, but that one, I feel like it had a little bit of spider mite damage, so I passed by it super quickly. There were Ring of Fires. I believe that said $12.99. They didn't have the worst variegation. I thought they were pretty good. And some Philodendron billies. They were $14.99. I thought that was a great price for the size. They were not too small, but not giant either. So I feel like $15 is a fair price. There were some pink princesses with some of the worst variegation I've ever seen, but that seems par for the course these days. I thought this plant was super cool. I had never seen anything quite like it before. It was called Cordyline Chocolate Queen. So that one kind of piqued my interest. Not something that I've seen in Texas or even before I moved there. So I don't know if it's a new variety or something. I spotted some Monstera Peru, which I love, but I don't love how they put out runners. That one had a giant runner on it. And I feel like they're too finicky and slow for a pull for me. This plant I also thought was really cool. There were a couple of them. And then this, I did see this at another store as well. It looks like Proven Winners is putting out a lot of houseplants recently. I thought $60 was a little high for that, but you know, it was a pretty cool looking plant. There were some Hoyas also, which was neat to see, though they weren't exactly labeled for what they were. I was trying to find any accurate label and it was not going well. So I apologize that I can't really ID those, but these were easier. These were all Carnosa types, so they were super easy to label, very cheap. And there were regular Carnosa, there were Crimson Queen, there were Crimson Princess, so all sorts of ones. For $30, there were Alocasia Scalprum. Y'all know that is my favorite Alocasia, and if I ever do buy an Alocasia one day again, it will be that one. For $40, they had the Alocasia Blizzard, I believe it's called. That is a larger form Alocasia. Those get pretty big. And then I saw some very interesting Aglonema. They were $34. I think they were in the Costa Farms pots, if I'm not mistaken. It looked kind of familiar, but it didn't really say Costa Farms on it. There were also these wonderfully variegated Thai constellations. They were just so beautiful. Not really fenestrated or anything yet. There were a couple that had some fenestrations, but if I needed another Thai, this was the place to get one because those were gorgeous. I feel like paying a little bit more for them would not be the end of the world if you're guaranteed such wonderful variegation. I totally miss those compactas in the back there. I was looking at these whale fins for $20. I feel like that's a pretty good price for a whale fin at this point. I remember when they used to be so expensive. But moving on, there are some larger plants on this other section of the houseplant area. It's kind of split into two, and then it moves on into annuals and perennials and things like that. There were Ficus shiveriana, of course. I feel like I'm seeing those everywhere now. More of these Labicia, I believe that's what they're called. Syngoniums, another pink princess. This one had much better variegation than the others. And it was pretty big. And there were bigger Ring of Fire, which was nice to see. I think that said $34.99. But there were a lot of them. There were a lot better variation on the bigger ones as well. I did spot a couple of Anthurium. $25 for this luxuriance, I feel like is a pretty good deal. There were a bunch of Stromanthe, but they are also spider mite magnets. And then these Hoya macrophylla variegated for $9.99 for a super full pot. I feel like that's a pretty good deal. And there were these Alocasia Antoro Velvet, though they were looking a little crispy, but Alocasia can be like that sometimes. I also found these Imedrium Silver for $34. I feel like that would be a big prop project. I think my husband had joined me at this point. I was saying, if I had the time and the place to have a big prop project, I'd probably pick one of those up. And then there were these gorgeous giant Monstera Thai constellations. I believe they were $125, but oh my goodness, I wanted one so bad. I had to move a little cart out of the way. They were deadheading flowers, but this is what I want out of a Thai constellation. This one was the most perfect one, the one I'm checking the price on. I just love the newest leaf on that plant. I love the double fenestrations. I really debated getting one, but we did not have room for that big of a plant in the car. These painted ladies also looked really good. I don't remember quite what the price was on those. I want to say it was around $50 or $60, but if you can see there, I cannot, it was too small, but there were a bunch of them. They looked super healthy, super full. And then I just wanted to give y'all an overview of what the greenhouse looked like. It was really nice back here. And then I'm going to move on to more of the annuals, and then they do have some orchids back here and some pond plants and little terrarium plants, things like that. So it's not just flowers, but they are super pretty back here. I always love walking here. This was a little Maranta I'd never seen before. I thought about getting it. So these were all of the little like orchids and terrarium plants that they had. Really pretty blooming orchids. They were all the more basic varieties though. And then we moved on into the annual greenhouse. I just love seeing rows and rows and rows of beautiful flowers. I also thought it was really neat that all of the plants were on sale. If I lived in PA, I would be buying so many plants right now, but I don't. I live in Texas and it's fine. I know my parents got a bunch of plants a lot of flowers for their garden and some vegetables from places like this. So it was just fun to walk through and see all of the plants. I'm not going to go through all of the annual flowers and whatnot individually just because there's so many. And like I said, my whole family was with me and I feel like it would have taken me hours, honestly. There's just so many. But I do know that there is a cactus section in the back, cacti and succulents. So I wanted to go back here and just show some of y'all that are more into the cacti and succulents. So there's quite a few back here. They usually have a whole wall or half a wall. I think after the succulent section, they actually have vinca lining the wall. And then there were a few plants that caught my eye. So I stopped to look at them for a second. And then it just goes on to vinca. That whole wall was vinca. It was amazing. There were also a lot of really neat petunias. I love different colors of petunias and zinnias and things like that. I always find them to be super fun. And then of course marigolds. And after that, it's mostly not plants. They had a really nice planter selection. And I really wish I could have taken these planters home because they were all really great prices. And I'm just looking for more planters all the time for my plants. So I was so bummed that I couldn't take any of these home. Maybe when I come back, I'm planning on coming back to Pennsylvania around Christmas time. So maybe I'll snag a few when I come back. But there's planters, there's an outdoor section of plants, and then there is a really neat gift shop that they have, and they make their own baked goods and things like that. So I'm gonna let y'all enjoy the rest of my walkthrough, and I'll talk to you after. So that was plant shopping at Ashcombe in Mechanicsburg. I had a lot of fun there. I always love going. It's not too far from where my parents live and where I grew up, and it's always just a blast. I didn't buy anything there, but I went shopping at another place and I bought 3 eggplants to bring home just because I've been struggling to find vegetables here. Last year, I actually bought most of my pepper plants in Pennsylvania and I think some tomatoes. And whatever I couldn't fit on the plane because I flew last year, I actually had shipped. My mom shipped them to the house for me. So I've bought plants in PA before, brought them back, and they grow just fine here. There's just a lot more variety in Pennsylvania, just of vegetables in general, flowers too. I really don't see that in Central Texas, and I get it, it's a different climate. There are some things that I just can't buy and bring back, but things like annual vegetables, I really don't see a problem with bringing back with me. So that's why I brought back some eggplants this year. I got a couple different varieties. I only had 1 plant in the ground when I left, so I wanted to add some more diversity to the eggplants and just have more because I feel like 1 plant isn't gonna be enough for me and my husband. So I wanted more. And so I was able to bring a couple of plants into the car, and my husband didn't get too mad about it because that car was stuffed on the way home, but we made it back safe and sound. The cats are alive. I think you just heard Saffron meowing, and it was a great trip overall. But if you like this video, make sure to give me a thumbs up down below and subscribe so you don't miss anything from me here on the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.